You never really forget the moments that could have gone horribly wrong, even if they didn't feel that way at first. This story takes me back to when I was just a kid in 4th grade, at a time when things seemed much simpler. I'd been invited to a friend's birthday party, and the plan was to meet at a pizza joint that was always packed with kids. It wasn't just a place for pizza. It had arcade games, bright lights, and loud music, the kind of spot where time slipped by without you even noticing. Right next door to the pizza place was a movie theater, and the whole shopping center was busy that day. Titanic had just hit theaters, and people were lined up outside, waiting for tickets. The energy in the air made everything feel exciting, like one of those days when nothing could possibly go wrong. That's what I thought anyway. It was the kind of familiar place that didn't seem dangerous. My mom had a few errands to run and needed to pick up my brother, so she was just going to drop me off and leave. I knew the plan: meet my friends, have fun at the party, eat as much pizza as possible, and get a ride home from one of my friend's parents later. Simple, right? She offered to wait until my friends arrived, but I insisted she didn't need to. I knew the place well enough, and I didn't mind being on my own for a little while. As a kid, you don't really think about what could happen when things don't go according to plan. You just trust everything will work out, because nothing bad ever happens in places you know so well. Or so I thought. With that, I waved goodbye, feeling independent and grown up. I walked into the restaurant, expecting my friends to be there, waiting to get started on the party. But when I looked around, the tables were empty, and none of my friends were anywhere in sight. That's when I began to feel something strange, a tiny bit of unease creeping into what was supposed to be just another fun day. I waited a few minutes, thinking my friends were just running late. It wasn't a big deal at first. I told myself they'd be here any minute. My mom had other things to do, and I didn't want to keep her waiting. I felt like I could handle it on my own after all. I wasn't a little kid anymore. I had been to this place plenty of times before. I knew where everything was, and my friends would show up soon. Or at least that's what I believed. I told my mom it was fine to leave, and I'd be okay. She trusted me and drove off, promising I'd get a ride home with one of the other parents. As her car pulled away, I felt a strange mix of excitement and nervousness. It was my first time waiting alone like this, but I tried not to think too much about it. Inside, the arcade buzzed with the sounds of games and kids yelling, but I still didn't see anyone from the party. I figured it wouldn't hurt to look around, so I wandered between the games and checked every corner of the restaurant. Still no sign of my friends. A little confused but trying to stay calm, I decided to step outside and wait by the entrance. The sun was starting to set, and the crowd outside the movie theater was growing. I leaned against the wall, watching people go in and out of the theater, hoping that any moment now, my friends would arrive. But they didn't. That's when I started to wonder if something had gone wrong. As I stood there, waiting and feeling more uncertain by the minute, a couple caught my attention. They were standing by a car nearby, smoking and chatting casually. They looked older, maybe in their late teens or early 20s. At first, I didn't think much of it. But after a while, I noticed they kept glancing my way, as if they were curious about what I was doing there alone. It wasn't long before they approached me. The guy smiled and asked, "Hey, who are you waiting for?" His tone was friendly, and the girl beside him seemed just as easygoing. At first, I hesitated. I knew better than to talk to strangers, but they didn't seem dangerous. They reminded me of people my older brother might hang out with, just regular teens, not threatening. I told them I was waiting for some friends to show up for a birthday party, though I couldn't hide the frustration in my voice. They made small talk, telling me they were at the theater to see Titanic, but their show had sold out. So now they were just hanging around, waiting for the next one. Their conversation felt normal, even a little comforting. I figured it couldn't hurt to chat for a bit while I waited. After all, I had nothing else to do but stand there, hoping my friends would finally arrive. The conversation with the couple flowed easily. They seemed friendly, asking me harmless questions like what games I liked and how old I was. I answered without thinking much about it. It felt nice having someone to talk to while I waited. After a few minutes, the guy asked, "Are you hungry?" I was, but I wasn't sure if the party was still happening, so I just shrugged. "Come on, let's get you some pizza," the girl offered with a smile. I hesitated for a second, but the thought of sitting alone didn't sound fun, and they seemed kind enough. So, I went with them. Inside, they ordered a whole pizza and told me I could have as much as I wanted. They even gave me coins for the arcade games. For a moment, I stopped worrying about the party and just enjoyed the food and games. It felt easy to trust them. They were treating me like a friend, laughing, joking, and making sure I was having fun. I told myself that it was fine. After all, they had been nothing but nice to me since the moment we met. But somewhere in the back of my mind, a tiny voice told me things didn't feel quite right. Time passed faster than I expected. I was playing games, eating pizza, and chatting with the couple when I suddenly checked the clock. Almost 2 hours had gone by, and my friend still hadn't shown up. That's when the uneasy feeling hit me hard. I realized I hadn't thought about how I was going to get home, and I didn't even know if the party was still happening. I tried calling my house from the phone at the restaurant counter, but no one picked up. I tried again, still nothing. My heart started racing. I knew my mom would be worried if I didn't show up when expected. On top of that, I realized I had spent hours with strangers. A strange sense of panic crept in. What if I had made a mistake by trusting these people? I told the couple I was trying to reach my family, hoping they'd understand. But instead of showing concern, they brushed it off, smiling like it wasn't a big deal. The guy leaned closer, his voice calm but unsettling. "Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out." In that moment, I started feeling trapped between wanting to believe in their kindness and realizing I might be in real trouble. I felt stuck. I didn't know what to do, and the couple kept acting like everything was fine. When I told them I should try calling home again, they gave me more money and told me to play a few more games while they figured things out. Their calmness made me second guess my own fear. Maybe I was just overthinking, I told myself. They had been nice to me all this time. Maybe they were only trying to help. But as I played, the pit in my stomach grew. Something about their attitude started to feel off. They seemed a little too eager to keep me with them. When I came back to the table, the guy smiled warmly and said, "We'll just take you home ourselves. It's no trouble." His girlfriend nodded in agreement, making it sound like the most reasonable thing in the world. I wanted to say no, but part of me felt cornered. They'd spent all this time with me, fed me, and been so friendly. Saying no felt rude, and I didn't want to upset them. Just when I was about to agree, I noticed the restaurant staff glancing our way, as if they sensed something wasn't right. Minutes later, a police officer walked in. My heart pounded as he headed toward us. The officer asked a few questions, trying to figure out what was going on. But instead of shutting things down, he left the decision up to me. "So, do you want to go with them, or I can take you home?" he asked casually, as if it were no big deal. I felt torn. The couple kept smiling, insisting it was no trouble at all, and the officer didn't seem too concerned either. Everything in me screamed that I should go with the cop, but I couldn't shake the guilt of saying no to people who had been nothing but nice to me. I looked at the officer, then back at the couple. The guy leaned in slightly and whispered with a smile, "Just tell him you'll come with us. It's easier that way." Feeling the weight of their kindness and the officer's indifference, I hesitated and said yes. The officer gave me a strange look but nodded and said he'd follow us all the way home. I got into the car with the couple. The girl drove while the guy sat in the passenger seat, glancing over his shoulder every few minutes, checking if the cop was still behind us. I sat quietly in the back, my heart pounding, wondering if I had made a terrible mistake. The ride felt longer than it should have, each passing minute thick with tension. The man kept shifting in his seat, watching the police car trailing us. Finally, we pulled up to my house. As the car stopped in front of my house, I jumped out and rushed to the door. My mom was already standing by the window, her face full of confusion and worry. She stepped outside just as I reached the front porch, looking between me, the couple in the car, and the police cruiser parked behind them. The officer came over and started talking with my mom. I didn't say much. I didn't even know how to explain what had happened. My mom's expression shifted from confusion to anger as she realized how close things had come to something far worse. The couple sat quietly in the car, watching us from the street. After a moment, the officer gave them a quick warning and let them drive off. That night, my mom gave me a long, stern talk about what could have happened. But it wasn't until years later, when I looked back as an adult, that I fully understood how dangerous the situation really was. If the officer hadn't followed us, I might never have made it home. Their kindness was just a trick away to make me trust them. Even now, the memory sends chills down my spine. I realize how lucky I was to get out of that situation unharmed. It's the kind of thing that sticks with you, a reminder that danger can come disguised as friendliness, and that trusting the wrong people, even for a moment, can change everything. Moving to a new town was supposed to be exciting, but for a kid, it also meant starting over. New places, new people, and no familiar faces. I was 10 years old, and my younger brother was 8 when we moved. We didn't know anyone, so we stuck together a lot. One of the only things that felt fun was the Walmart in town. It had this cool little arcade near the front. Every time our parents went grocery shopping, they gave us a few dollars, and we'd run off to play games while they shopped. It became our routine, a way to pass the time in a town that still felt strange to us. The arcade was small but exciting for kids like us. The games were old, but we didn't care. It was right near the front entrance, with shoppers coming and going all the time. The place felt completely safe, and I never thought anything bad could happen there. It was just a little corner of fun in a new place, and we were glad to have it. At the time, nothing seemed unusual. It was just another ordinary day at the arcade, or at least, that's what I thought. That day started like all the others. My brother and I rushed to the arcade as soon as our parents handed us a few dollars. My brother went straight to the claw machine, his favorite game. He loved trying to grab one of those stuffed animals, even though the claw always seemed too weak to hold anything. I stood beside him, trying to help line up the claw perfectly over a toy he wanted. We weren't worried about anything. The store was busy, and the arcade sat right at the front where people were checking out their groceries. It felt like the safest spot in the world. Parents walked by with their kids. The sound of cash registers rang in the background, and everything seemed normal. We were just 2 kids enjoying our favorite game, thinking it was going to be a day like any other. But something was about to change. While we were focused on the claw machine, a man quietly appeared beside us. He didn't say much, just stood there, playing the machine next to ours. But something felt strange. He kept glancing at my brother, smiling in a way that made me uncomfortable. He didn't seem interested in the game at all. His eyes stayed on us more than the machine. He looked out of place. His hair was long and tied back in a messy ponytail, and he wore a dirty trucker hat. I remember the smell too, like stale beer mixed with old cigarettes. It clung to him like a second skin. He didn't try to talk to us right away, but the way he lingered made my skin crawl. At that moment, I realized this wasn't just some random guy killing time. Something about him felt wrong. Just as I started feeling uneasy, a woman showed up and walked straight toward the man. She gave him a strange smile, as if they were in on some private joke. Without missing a beat, she joined him at the claw machine next to us. Now, they had us boxed in, one on each side. At first, it seemed like they were just playing, but their focus wasn't on the games, it was on us. The man told the woman he was trying to win us a stuffed animal, as if that would make everything seem normal. I forced a polite smile, even though my gut told me something was off. The way they hovered close, always watching us, made it hard to think clearly. We tried moving to another game, hoping they'd leave us alone, but they followed without hesitation. Wherever we went, they were right there. It was no longer just two strangers playing games. It felt like they were trying to trap us in some way, and I knew we had to stay sharp. As we kept playing, the man and woman started asking us questions, strange ones that made me feel even more uneasy. They wanted to know where we went to school, what our parents did for work, and if we had ever tried drugs. The way they asked didn't feel like small talk, it felt like they were prying for personal information. Then, out of nowhere, the woman asked if I had a boyfriend. Her tone was playful, but something about the question felt wrong. My brother and I exchanged nervous glances. We didn't know how to respond, so we stayed quiet. The more they talked, the more uncomfortable we became. It felt like they were trying to find out too much, as if they were testing how far they could push. That's when I knew this wasn't just two people being friendly. They had other intentions, and it wasn't good. The conversation took an even weirder turn when my brother mentioned he still had $1 left. The woman's face changed in an instant. She leaned in close, her expression turning sharp, and snapped, "Well, then give it to him, boy." Her voice was loud and harsh, cutting through the noise around us like a knife. My brother froze, his eyes wide with fear. He slowly pulled out the $1 and handed it over, too scared to say no. The woman suddenly laughed, acting like it was just a joke, but the damage was done. My brother looked like he was about to cry, and I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. Just then, our father appeared out of nowhere, walking toward us. The couple's entire demeanor shifted. They exchanged a quick glance, muttered something to each other, and left in a hurry before my dad could get a good look at them. The moment they were gone, I finally let out the breath I didn't realize I was holding. As soon as the couple disappeared, I told my dad everything about how they followed us from game to game, asked strange questions, and scared my brother. His face tightened with anger, and he marched us straight to the front desk. He told the staff what had happened, and they immediately made an announcement over the intercom, warning everyone to keep an eye out for the pair. The store workers checked the security cameras, but the footage was blurry, and there wasn't enough detail to identify the couple. The only thing they could tell was that the two had left the store right after my dad showed up without buying anything. That confirmed it. They weren't there to shop. The police were called, but by then, the couple was long gone. We stood by the front desk as the officers asked questions, but there wasn't much anyone could do. The whole thing left me feeling shaken, like the safety I once felt in that arcade had been shattered. Even though the couple was gone, the memory of that day stayed with me. Every time I went to Walmart after that, I found myself looking around nervously, scanning faces to see if they were there. Even if I saw someone who only slightly resembled them, my heart would race, and I'd feel the urge to walk the other way. It's strange how something so small can stick with you for years. I never really felt safe in that arcade again. It made me realize that danger isn't always loud or obvious. It can come quietly, disguised as friendly faces and harmless questions. If my dad hadn't shown up when he did, I don't know how things might have ended. That thought alone is enough to send chills down my spine, even now. There's something unsettling about feeling safe, like it tricks you into lowering your guard just enough for things to go wrong. I learned that the hard way during one of my babysitting jobs. I'm 21 now, but I've been babysitting since I was 14. Back then, I wanted extra money and didn't mind looking after kids. Over time, I got good at it and even took a self-defense course. I thought I knew how to handle most situations. There's this one family I babysit for regularly. They live in a big house, pay well, and their kids are surprisingly easy to manage. Both parents are doctors, so their schedule is packed, and they often ask me to stay late. I liked working for them. Their house was in a quiet, safe neighborhood, and the kids behaved well, so I never had any reason to feel uneasy. Or at least, that's what I thought at the time. Every time I babysat for them, it followed the same routine. The parents left around 5 p.m, always dressed for a night out, and didn't come back until after 2 a.m. They were kind enough to offer me the guest room to sleep in, but I rarely used it. I preferred staying awake, watching TV, or finishing my homework while the kids slept. The neighborhood was quiet, almost too quiet at night, with barely any lights from nearby houses. But I never worried much because their home had a top-notch security system. They gave me full access through an app on my phone, so I could arm and disarm it easily. Everything always felt so routine, like nothing could ever go wrong. As usual, I took the kids to their favorite spot, a pizza place with an arcade. It was our little tradition to go there, let them run around, and play as many games as they wanted. The goal was simple: tire them out so they'd fall asleep quickly when we got back home. The kids were focused on winning prizes from the claw machines, especially the younger one, who had her heart set on a specific stuffed animal. While they played, I sat at a nearby table, keeping an eye on them while scrolling through my phone. The place was lively with parents, kids, and the constant sound of arcade games. Everything felt normal, and for a while, it seemed like just another uneventful night. But things were about to take a strange turn. As I sat at the table, a couple quietly joined me. At first, I didn't think much of it. Parents sat at these long tables all the time while their kids played. But something about them felt different. They started talking to each other, then shifted their attention to me. The guy leaned in with a casual tone and asked, "Are you the one babysitting Dr. So-and-so's kids?" That caught me off guard. It wasn't strange for people to know the parents since they were doctors, but it still felt unsettling. I gave a vague response, hoping they'd lose interest, but they didn't. Instead, the woman made a strange comment about how the daughter might grow up to look just like her mom. It was a harmless statement on the surface, but it gave me a weird feeling. Then, the woman glanced at my clothes and smirked. "Do they really let you wear that while watching their kids?" she asked, her tone playful but sharp. I suddenly felt uncomfortable, like their words had a hidden meaning I couldn't quite figure out. Something told me it was time to get the kids and leave. I gathered the kids and left the arcade, trying to shake off the strange feeling the couple left me with. The kids were happy, clutching their new prizes, but I couldn't stop thinking about that odd encounter. We got back to the house, and I went through the usual routine, getting the kids cleaned up, reading them a bedtime story, and tucking them into bed. Once they were asleep, the house felt eerily quiet, as it always did at night. I tried to distract myself with homework, but the unease lingered. Something didn't feel right, though I kept telling myself it was nothing. I locked the doors, set the alarm, and settled on the couch with the TV on low. It was supposed to be just another normal night, but deep down, I knew something was off. Not long after I got comfortable, I heard a noise at the front door. At first, it was just the doorknob rattling, but then it grew louder, like someone was trying to force it open. My heart raced. Before I could even react, there was more banging from the back door. That's when it hit me someone was trying to get inside from both entrances. I grabbed my phone and quickly opened the security app, activating the alarm. The loud beep filled the house, and I felt a brief sense of relief. But I knew I had to act fast. I rushed upstairs, grabbed the kids, and quietly moved them to the walk-in closet in the parents' bedroom. I didn't explain anything to them. I just told them to stay quiet and wait for me. I locked the bedroom door, hoping it would buy us some time. I sat near the door, holding my taser tight, listening for any sound. That's when I heard footsteps on the stairs. My hands started to shake, but I knew I had to stay calm for the kids. The doorknob twisted slowly, like someone was trying to see if it would open. I gripped the taser harder, my heart pounding in my ears. The alarm kept going off, but suddenly I saw a notification on my phone. The alarm had been disarmed. I rearmed it immediately, only for it to disarm again. It became a back and forth battle, the system arming and disarming, and each time I felt my panic rise. I knew whoever was out there wasn't giving up. The footsteps were closer now, just on the other side of the door. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself, ready to use the taser if they made it inside. And then, just when I thought it was all over, I heard a familiar voice call my name. It was the parents. They were home. The moment I heard their voices, I unlocked the door and ran out, relief washing over me. The parents hugged me tightly, and I finally let my guard down, tears stinging my eyes. They explained that when the alarm went off, they got a notification and checked their porch cameras. That's when they saw two people trying to get into the house, a man and a woman, standing on opposite sides. The couple tried to disarm the alarm multiple times, but luckily, the system alerted the parents in real time. They rushed home as soon as they saw what was happening. A police report was filed, but the intruders were long gone by then. I mentioned the strange couple from the arcade, but there wasn't enough evidence to link them to the break-in. Even though nothing terrible happened, the whole experience left me shaken. It made me realize how quickly things can spiral out of control. I'm just grateful the parents got back in time, because if they hadn't, I'm not sure how the night would have ended.